what's especially alarming to me, and it's what you experienced, right? Because when you were 13 years old, when you were first exposed to porn, is that children, are just en masse being exposed to not Playboy, right? Not the centerfold that used to be, but the free porn tube sites, because it's free.
They have access.
It's just
do you guys know that children are accessing those? Like, is there statistics behind it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think one study from 2022 was saying that 75% of 13 to 17-year-olds have viewed internet porn. I mean, I think it would probably be more than that. And every kid has a device. There's 5-year-olds that could click through. The internet filters are not doing a good job, and parents who may not even know how to implement internet filters for their kids. And even if they do, they can't control all the time. So they can't be at school and other places when they go to their friend's house or whatever. It's just
what filters are they
right?
using? Are they because they're the ones that you suggest, kind of, that people use?
I don't have any particular brands that I would suggest, but there's like so many different apps that people can install.
For sure.
You can get like routers that could actually block the content at the router level.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so there's stuff like that out there, but
I know states are stopping people from, like, a lot of states are you have to upload an ID now.
Well, there's like this whole movement in the United States right now that is saying, look, we understand that kids are accessing this content and we want to protect kids from viewing. And I call it a form of secondhand sexual abuse, right? For kids to be witnessing this kind of content. And from my perspective, I know how much of this content isn't just hardcore, right? It's actually criminal.
Right.
Where they could be watching a real rape as their sex education as an 8-year-old child. Yeah. And, they call it the creation of a sexual template, right? So it becomes like, what is your sexuality about and what is, arousing to you? And if they grow up on this kind of content, I mean, it could do so much damage to an entire generation.
Well, especially, I think a lot of that's already happened. I think you've seen like a lot of the effects of pornography on, marriages. Like, people get addicted to porn and then they're no longer expressing attraction to their spouse, and because it's being hijacked basically by this algorithm, by the websites, by this addiction, and then marriages fall apart and then families fall apart.
Yeah, and another implication of this is actually children who are acting out on other children. So we've seen, so I was just reading the amicus, should call it amicus briefs. So these are briefs that were submitted to the Supreme Court. So as these states across America are implementing age verification to protect kids from viewing porn online, the porn sites are not happy about this. So Pornhub and its partners are suing those states. So for example, they sued the state of Texas to not have to abide by this age verification law. And it's gone now. They've appealed it. They lost. They appealed. Now it's at the Supreme Court. And on January 15, the justices actually heard oral arguments for whether or not we can have states enacting age verification to keep kids off porn sites. So they're going to have a decision by June. But some of the briefs submitted are so compelling. And one of them was this nurse, Heidi Olson, and she's a pediatric sexual assault nurse. And she was talking about her experience with over 1,500 cases of sexual assault that she had to document and assess. And she saw that 50% of those cases were children who were assaulting other children. And the number one, the perpetrators in that group were 14-year-old males who were then assaulting
females?
Other females, children.
And you're saying that a lot, you think
and they're citing pornography as
being the
reason why they're acting out, right? Because like that's human nature, like especially with kids.
Oh yeah, you see something, you mimic it, or you.
Yeah, I mean, like my son, he's like, watch Spider-Man or something, and he's like jumping off the walls and pretending that he's Spider-Man. They're acting out what they see, right? And so if they're watching porn and they're watching, potentially actually watching sexual crime on these free porn tube sites, and they're kind of acting out what they see. And so it's not surprising that that's happening, right?
It's sick. It's literally like being in a spiral of sickness, kind of. I mean, it's almost like what you would feel like people would describe as like some sort of a hell, you know? One of the wildest things that happens on porn sites is how they, I don't know if this is targeted or what the goal is, but you talk about it ruining families. Some of the videos are like stepson, mom,
Right.
dad, son's girlfriend. Like shit that's like you're putting things into people's, just even to put that seed into somebody's psyche. People don't realize, or we don't realize that when we're watching something, we're a sponge, right? We might say, oh, I'm not really, I'm watching this, but I'm watching it for a brief second. I'm using it, right? But it's also, whatever it is, it's also using you, right? It's everything it's a back and forth relationship.
Yeah.
So.
And teen was, I mean, one of the most popular categories on Pornhub was teen. And teen, right? Like teen could be 18 and 19, but it also is 13 and 14 and 15 and 16. And so many of those videos are, you know, where they could be someone who's of age, but they're intentionally made to look younger. Underage with the pigtails and the flat chest and the braces and the no makeup and all of that. And they're mixed in with videos of real teenagers who are being abused. And then this is being pushed, right? It's Pornhub was tracking down to the dollar how much they would make monthly on those teen categories on their site. And it was one of the most popular that they had. And so whatever is making the most money, you push that forward, right? And so maybe they're getting more clicks because people are like horrified by it. Or maybe, I don't know, exactly what is happening there, but whatever it is that gets the most clicks and views, they'll push the algorithm, right? Will of course push that forward.
But it's like, why? I wonder how that even starts that they say like mom, son, porn. You know what I'm saying? Like, where does something like that like that idea even start?
Well, I think I've spoken to some porn producers who've talked to me about this and the way that there's been like a trajectory from like Playboy into more and more kind of extreme forms of porn in different situations. And they're saying like they're just told to create the most extreme thing you can think of because you need more shock value. There's this idea of kind of desensitization for people where they want to kind of, in order to get the same dopamine hit with porn, it's not necessarily that you need more, it's that you need different. And you need something more extreme to kind of get that same dopamine hit.
What does porn do to our brains? Do you have anything on that? Trying to see just the psychological effects. New research sheds light on the global impact of problematic pornography use. Okay, I'll look at this a little bit, but after this, I want something more about the actual effects on our brain. A comprehensive international study involving tens of thousands of participants from dozens of countries suggests that problematic pornography use might have a prevalence rate as high as 16.6%. So that's saying that 16.6% of people, per this study, have problematic pornography use. Problematic pornography use refers to a condition where individuals experience an uncontrollable urge to consume pornography, leading to significant distress or impairment in their daily functioning. First, most people use pornography, but only a small group of them develop problems with it. So we wanted to see how many people may experience such problems worldwide and whether there are any country, gender, or sexual orientation-based differences, as most previous studies focused on really specific populations, i.e. Men from the United States. I think one of the most important takeaway messages from our study is that problematic pornography use seems to be as common as other mental health issues, i.e. depression. So we need to better understand this problem and provide appropriate care for people experiencing this issue. Probably the most surprising finding of the study is that only 4 to 10% of individuals with problematic pornography sought help for this issue, with an additional 20 to 40% wanting to, but did not do so for various help reasons.
It's also young men are having kind of an epidemic of what they call porn-induced erectile dysfunction.
Oh, yeah. PED.
And, PIED, so there was a study in Canada, and it was in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, and they had found a third of young men between 16 and 21 had issues with porn-induced erectile dysfunction.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
And they're young.
Yeah, well, it's heartbreaking. And then that creates a ton of shame. And a lot of that's just nervous energy. And then here's the thing. If you get used to watching porn, then you finally are in an instance with a woman or is there some sexual activity or whatever. It's so foreign to whatever. The part of your brain that watches a screen and the part of your brain that engages with someone are two, I don't know this for a fact, but to me it feels like two totally different parts. One of them is very active and feels very visceral and real, and one of them feels very passive and transactional almost in a way. Like I'm going to give this my attention and I'm going to get some reward out of it. But that's all this is. Whereas over here, this is a field of communication and connection.
Right.
So, yeah, I wanted to watch this right here. Watching pornography, this is from Neuroscience News. Watching pornography rewires the brain to a more juvenile state. That's interesting. Pornography has existed throughout recorded history. I'd love to get someone to come in and talk about just the whole history of it. Hundreds of...
At the bottom here, we have the impact.
Okay. In the long term, pornography seems to create sexual dysfunctions, especially the inability to achieve erection or orgasm with a real life partner. Marital quality and commitment to one's romantic partner also appear to be compromised. To try to explain these effects, some scientists have drawn parallels between porn consumption and substance abuse. Through evolutionary design, the brain is wired to respond to sexual stimulation with surges of dopamine. So if you get sexually stimulated, your brain gives dopamine. And that makes sense because we're creatures that are supposed to reproduce, right? And have attraction. So this neurotransmitter, most often associated with reward anticipation, also acts to program memories and information into the brain. This adaptation means that when the body requires something like food or sex, the brain remembers where to return to experience the same pleasure. Instead of turning to a romantic partner for sexual gratification or fulfillment, habituated porn users instinctively reach for their phones and laptops when desire comes calling. Furthermore, unnaturally strong explosions of reward and pleasure evoke unnaturally strong degrees of habituation in the brain. Dang. That's wild. I could definitely see that. Yeah, and then it's like, and then you feel ashamed, you know? Like what parent wants to go and talk to their son and wish him good night if he's been masturbating? I'm sure that's a weird thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what that's like, but I'm sure that there's some shame there. It's like...
Yeah. Well, that's where I think that one of the important things that we can do is create like actually shame-free zones where kids...
Like the kitchen or whatever?
I don't know. I mean, like your household, right? Like...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I mean,
okay.
You know, like where you can feel like you're in a relationship that is safe to talk about the things that you would feel ashamed talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because then you don't just stuff it down.
Well, that's what recovery meetings, that's one thing that's why I think 12-step meetings are great, because it's like, and if people are wondering, well, how do I get into the meeting? There's slaa.org, I think it's called, if you want to look at that up, Nick, and see. But you can also look up SLAA online, and that's just, you can find meetings. And then once you get into a meeting, you can talk to people. Now you're not a weirdo. Now you get in a program, you kind of get some things organized. You create basically a set of principles for yourself, and then you have a new kind of design for living. But the kids should be able to access it. I don't think it's good.
No,
I think
kids is where you draw the line.
I think
because
it's really
they
alarming.
can't choose. Like they need to be able to get to adulthood before they decide, where they can make that decision. And also it's that prefrontal cortex of the brain where it's like that decision-making center of the brain. It's not even developed. So they can't reason.
Perverted.
Like, is this going to be good for me? Or do I want to do this? Or what are the consequences of me? You know, and they just don't have that yet. And so like they definitely need to be protected. But once you're an adult, you know, you can make decisions. Like you should have the freedom to make whatever decisions you want. And I take the position of like, what, you know, if it's consenting adult, like that's their business, right? And
yep, I agree. But they'd also be, we also have this, like, imagine if you opened your door and there was just a bunch of porn there. That's really what it's like. It's like, you know, I mean, the internet's just our front porch now. It's like, so you open your door and everything is there. Everything is there. And so if you as a parent or as a country kind of can't decide maybe what should and shouldn't be there, sort of, and at a certain point you see enough proof, well, 90% of this much percentage of people maybe get addicted to this. It ruins this many marriages, hypothetically. Like at a certain point, you might think this isn't for our society. This just doesn't help society that much overall. I'm not saying that. I don't know if that's true. But
at least we can all, I mean, everybody can agree that like step one, let's just keep kids away from accessing it. And then, because they will get that compulsive porn use when they
Oh yeah, no
are
doubt
young.
about that. I think we
then,
get it.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.